What's up guys, thanks for tuning in on today's video. So I recently revealed my new 5th generation ZL1 that I purchased not too long ago. I also mentioned that I'm going to have to sell my 2010 Camaro SS in order to expand the business, if you guys know what I mean. While I have this car in the meantime, I wanted to do a video comparing the key differences between my newly purchased 5th generation 2013 ZL1 and of course my 2010 Camaro 2SS. This is not going to be a stock for stock, apples to apples comparison. This is solely going to be focused on my modified 2010 Camaro 2SS and this modified 2013 ZL1 that I just purchased. But not to worry, I will be covering some of the differences throughout the video so you guys have a little bit of context. And of course, if I'm missing any important details or any sort of specifics, please comment in the comment section below. That way somebody else that is interested in learning in the specifics will have something to go off of. I do have some forums listed in the description along with all of the links to the modifications that I have done to my Camaro SS and other useful links. So without further ado, let's get started in this comparison. So we'll first start off with the exterior characteristics of the two cars. We'll first start off with the paint color because these two cars have an absolutely stunning paint color. So the ZL1 actually has a color called Crystal Red Metallic. And as you guys can see, it is just an absolutely stunning color. Unfortunately, we are underneath a bridge, so we're not gonna have full direct sunlight exposure. But let me just say that underneath the sun, this thing absolutely pops. My 2010 Camaro SS's color, which is again a factory color. A lot of people don't actually believe that is a factory color, and that is called Aqua Blue Metallic. And just like the Crystal Red Metallic, it has the metallic characteristics and the flakes, and it's a very dynamic color. My Camaro SS set the standards high when it came to an exterior paint color. I had to get something a little bit more poppin', a little bit more flair, and this Crystal Red Metallic definitely satisfies that box. Okay, so now that we've got the colors out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the differences in fascias. So right off the bat, you're going to notice that the ZL1 has a more aggressive and definitely a more airflow based fascia versus the Camaro SS's. The front of the ZL1 has a much larger bottom grille over here and a larger upper grille as well. Now, you'll notice that with my SS, I do have the ZL1 upper grille here, but I kept the stock lower grille. I did that because I absolutely love how the ZL1's upper grille looks like compared to the regular SS's. The SS has a very horizontal focused on the bottom grille, but then for the upper grille, it was very vertically centered. Essentially, this front fascia is really geared towards aerodynamics and also cooling for the massive motor underneath the hood. We'll cover in just a minute. I love how it has these two little lights here. It's got the daytime running lights and like this little reflector. I think it's a fog light over there as well. Now, both the ZL1 and the SS have the same semicircle HID lights in the front. I think they just look so nice, and it's one of the key characteristics of the 5th generation Camaro. For my ZL1, the hood over here is the exact same design. The only difference is that it has a different heat extractor, and this is actually in this very nice carbon fiber finish, which makes the car look so much more aggressive, sportier, and a lot more high-end, to be honest. And again, not only is this to allow for the hot air that builds up from the engine to exit out, but it also allows for better aerodynamics. Now, for my 2010 Camaro SS, I've actually done a custom job. Now, these heat extractors did not actually come with the Camaro SS's up until 2014. So I actually had to cut into the hood and place this heat extractor, which belongs to a 2014, 2015 SS or Z28, the Z28 being carbon fiber. I think it just gave my SS such a beautiful and aggressive and also functional use as well. It's an airflow design upgrade, and it's also allowing for the heat to exit here from all of the buildup that's happening here. So that pretty much wraps it up for the front fascia and the hood situation. Now we're gonna talk about the side, which by the way, they don't really change much. Actually, it's pretty much the same exact dimensions and length. There's no fender flare extensions like you would get in the Z28. It's basically the same thing except for the wheels and the brakes. The ZL1 actually has 6 piston brakes in the front and 4 pistons in the rear, while the SS has 4 piston brakes in the front and 4 pistons in the rear. I was actually cheeky and I put a 6.2 liter badge from a Ford Raptor, and a lot of people noticed that, and some people like it and some people hate it. Originally, it would have a Camaro badging over here, just like this. We're gonna keep moving down here. Same thing, you're gonna have like this pseudo grill piece design in the rear panels over here. Same thing with the ZL1. I actually have 305/35 by 20s. That's the dimension of the tire, and my rim size is 20 by 10. Now, just like my Camaro SS, the ZL1 has 305/35 by 20s, except this is a way more expensive tire. These are Nittos, and these are just Cooper Xeon RSs. Now, in the rear section of these two beautiful Camaros, we're going to see a lot of similarities from a high level view, but the moment that we start to squint our eyes and focus on the details, we're going to notice that there's a lot of things different going on here. So for the ZL1, you're going to get a factory OEM spoiler, but if we compare it to my 2010 Camaro SS, we have this very nice, very large Z28 imitation style spoiler here with this added wicker bill, which makes the car look a lot more aggressive. Even though there are some performance enhancements like providing additional downforce, I really haven't used it to the fullest extent. So right now it's really serving as more of a cosmetic look, and it does look very nice. I like it a lot more compared to the factory ZL1 spoiler. But you know what? Again, this is not a factory car by any means. Again, my 5th generation Camaro SS spoiled me in the sense that when I was looking for a ZL1, it had to be a 2012 or 2013 model because of this rear fascia design. I love how it has the separate 4-piece tail lights that it just makes the car look, for me, a lot more aggressive and a lot more muscle car looking than the unified piece that they did in 14 and 15s. Now, the differences will be seen in the tail lights here. They are clear, because that's how it comes like from factory, but on my SS, I've actually added a taillight tint film on it, and I've also purchased these gloss black bezels over here that are chrome from factory, as you can see on the ZL1. For the ZL1, we're going to notice that we actually have some extensions over here, and we have the quad tip exhaust setup. I believe these are 3 inches, and if we go to my Camaro SS, we only have the quad tip exhaust setup, but it does not have an additional extension over there, so this makes the car look so much more beefier. Now, going back to my Camaro SS, I have 4-inch exhaust tips on this quad tip exhaust setup, and something that's very key and very important that does not come with the 2010 Camaro SS's is the rear view camera. This is standard on the ZL1 versus on the Camaro SS, that didn't become an option until 2012. So for 2 years, people had to raw dog the parking experience, and it was an absolute nightmare for me over the term ownership of this. I mean, you could see the result of that down here. Now, the last major difference between the ZL1 and the SS is going to be, again, going back to the taillights, and that is going to be this very nice Oracle afterburner taillight design that I think makes the car look so much nicer and newer versus the factory taillights over here. Those afterburners do give it kind of like an OEM plus look, so I'm definitely going to think about doing this for my ZL1. My ZL1 actually has a sunroof, which is very cool, very good for GoPros and just practicality, and it's good to, you know, sometimes get some air exposure as well, but it does make the car a little bit heavier than my SS. I know that you could get a 2SS with the sunroof, but honestly, it's good to have, but it's not like I actually was like looking for it. Now, I just mentioned something about weight, which is a huge difference between my ZL1 and my SS. From the factory, these weigh about 4,100 pounds. So it's quite a heavy car, and the reason why is because it has a crap ton of performance differences and other interior components, which we'll cover in just a moment here. But my SS only weighs about 38 3890, which is still a heavy car, so let's call it 3900. So there's about a 200-pound difference between my ZL1 and my SS. All right, so underneath the hood of the ZL1, we're going to first appreciate just how absolutely clean the bottom part of this hood is. It's just so nice. And here is underneath the hood of my 2010 Camaro SS. So quite a difference in cleanliness. But let's go over the biggest difference between the ZL1 and the SS, and that is going to be the LSA 6.2 liter supercharged V8 engine that from factory made 580 crank horsepower. Now this car is not stock at all. As you guys can see, there's already a rotofab intake. I'll go over some of the other modifications that I have in a separate video, but ultimately the biggest difference is going to be this supercharged V8 engine versus the naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8, which is called the LS3. Now, the LSA is actually a LS3, but with a supercharger. Immediately, the key difference is going to be not only that there's no supercharger here, but I have a VARAM cold air intake, so it allows for there to be a lot of space over here. Now this supercharger adds weight and adds a lot of heat. So there's a lot more cooling systems in place for the ZL1 versus the SS that doesn't have as much cooling systems because it doesn't have like that extra amount of boost happening in this area and extra heat that's going on. See, something really interesting happened in 2012. The Camaro SS went from hydraulic power steering to electrical steering, or that came as an option. I think by 2013, all of the Camaro SS's were now optioned with that electrical steering. And that makes a huge difference from a handling and overall just engagement perspective. So the electric steering on the ZL1 is so much better. And I'll get into details when I review this car formally. The track setting or sports setting makes the wheel a little bit more resistant, more direct. And when you're just driving it on tour, on regular driving scenarios, it's a little bit softer and more forgiving, whereas the SS just basically has one setting. The 2012 and up Camaros, at least for the pre-refresh generation, they're basically the same exact car from an exterior standpoint. Everything I've mentioned, rims, fascia, hood design, rear fascia, the spoilers provided, bezels, tail lights, everything is the exact same thing. And since we are on the topic of suspension and handling, the ZL1 comes with the magnetic ride, which is such an amazing suspension setup to have, because not only can you alternate between a very comfy tour mode, but you can also have a more stiff and direct and precise sport track mode that really does make the Camaro feel so much lighter and nimbler than my 2010 Camaro SS, which right now is on coilover, so it does have the capability of having stiff dampening and stiffer feelings. But I'll tell you right now, the magnetic ride suspension completely transforms the way you drive a Camaro. Now for the SS, you do have a standard no option non-magnetic, so essentially if you left it from factory, there is no comfort setting, tour setting, sport track setting, it's just one setting. And from what I remember driving this car for the few months that it was okay, because eventually I actually had to swap out the rear struts because they were leaking, so the car was stiff pretty much all the time. It drove okay. It really didn't drive that bad. There was a lot of body roll, which the ZL1 completely eliminates on that magnetic track mode. But I gotta say that adding these Megan Racing coilovers, which I do have a link in the description below, I mean, they transformed the way this car handles. There is not as much body roll as there was before. And yes, it's not going to be as precise as the ZL1, but it definitely gets the job done. But I just wanted to mention that there is that difference in suspension between both of these cars. So I covered the key differences in terms of engines from the ZL1 and the SS. Now let's hear just how different these two very different but similar cars sound. Oh my gosh. Both of these cars sound so damn good, but I feel like the ZL1 has a deeper, throatier, more composed, definitely more muscle car sounding versus my SS, which is very loud, untamed, rowdy, very high-pitched, very NASCAR-like in a way. If you guys want your car to sound like my SS, check out the link in the description below for all of the modifications. Now, it's also worth noting that the ZL1 from factory comes with these MPP exhausts that are dual mode, which means that at lower RPMs, the valves are closed, and the moment that you apply some gas or throttle, they open up. And on my Camaro SS, I actually have a Valvetronic muffler system on it, which allows me to go fully quiet at a touch of a button, and of course fully loud at a touch of a button. And as you guys can see, the loud mode it's jaw-droppingly loud. I mean, it's mic-breaking, eardrum shattering loud. That MPP option was not available on the SS until 2012, 2013. So we finished up talking about the primary differences with the engine and handling capabilities of the ZL1 versus the SS, but let's finish talking about some other key differences that have to do with the performance and driving experience of the ZL1 and the SS. So for the ZL1, you have that added power, which means that you're going to have a lot more stress on the overall chassis and suspension. So the ZL1 does come with that magnetic ride suspension, but it also comes with a more robust and beefed up drivetrain. So everything from the engine all the way down to the differential is completely strengthened. Both of these cars actually share the same two-piece drive shaft. The differential is cast iron for the ZL1 versus aluminum. Cast iron's a little bit heavier, but it's a lot more resilient, but it gets hot pretty quick. That's why there is a differential cooler that this car has from factory versus the SS that's just aluminum. Again, it's lighter, but it doesn't get as hot as cast iron does. That's why it's important to know that when you're starting to boost or add more power to these cars, you have to do the due diligence and you have to purchase supporting mods to handle that power. Not only handle the force, but also longevity. So proper cooling systems that the ZL1 has versus the SS. So that's just some more food for thought. Okay guys, so for the final section of this video, we're going to be comparing the interiors of my 2010 SS to the ZL1. And right off the bat, I just want you guys to take in this look because it is just not it. I'm a huge Camaro fanboy. I'm going to be very honest. I ride or die Camaro. But this interior from the 2010 models and 2011 models, they're just not it. If you're somebody that does not care for that, if you're somebody that is buying this car, which you should be buying this car for the engine and the driving experience, just be prepared for this interior because, guys, it is just very plain, very archaic. I do love the speedo and the tachometer and the gauge clusters here. I don't think there's other cars from this time that provided this gauge clusters down here, which is really cool. But the whole thing is just made out of cheap plastic, but it's okay because this is a mass-produced American muscle car. That's not the point of this car. The redeeming factors of this very plain interior is going to have to be this suede Alcantara short throw shifter that I added from MGW, these floor mats that say SS, of course the Govee lights that I have a link in the description below, and these very nice seat covers from Kustom Interior. But now let's get to the ZL1 so you guys can see what a difference. The interior difference is just shockingly different. As you guys can tell, the interior is far more elevated. I mean, you do have the similar styling, you do still have some cheap plastic, but it's at least compensated with the Alcantara here on the dashboard. You have a flat bottom steering wheel that is also Alcantara wrapped over here, and it just feels a lot better, honestly. Now, the only thing I don't like about the steering wheel is that it has the bow tie here, which kind of takes away from the Camaro experience. Unlike my 2010 Camaro SS that actually says Camaro here, you know, that's just something that I wish they would have kept. I don't see why they couldn't just leave it, but whatever, it is what it is. But I gotta say that this interior is just so much better. The seats are the same style. Of course, obviously I don't have seat covers on it, but from factory it came with this suede Alcantara middle piece in these seats. And in 2014, you could actually spec out the Recaro seats that I had on my SS earlier. And from factory, you're going to get a suede short throw shifter that is, again, factory. Honestly, feels incredible. It's definitely not as stiff or as heavy as my short throw shifter over there, which I actually really like about that SS. Obviously, the screen here has a crap ton of more features than that calculator slash, I don't even know what type of thing to describe it as. Another thing that happened in 2012 is you have heads-up display. So actually, you can adjust the brightness here, adjust the levels. You can say what type of things you want to see. You can actually see the G's and the miles per hour. You could also see the direction, speedometer, and of course the weather and whatnot. In terms of spacing, it's pretty much the same thing from my SS and the ZL1. Same storage capacity, glove box, side pockets, everything is still the same. The ZL1 and the Camaro SS both have the same exact dimensions with the trunk space, same opening, which kind of sucks, and of course the same storage. And so 2012 was a very important year for the 5th generation Camaro SS's. They definitely upgraded their interior and added a little bit more features to the inside and the driving experience, but really exterior wise it does not change in the slightest. So the ZL1 is the one that has the Alcantara components up here. Same thing with the ZL1, you have the different gauge clusters that are standard, and you actually have an additional setting over here that shows boost. I can't believe I have a ZL1, which is so crazy, but I have it, and that's a cool feature to have too. I sound so redundant saying this, but the interior on the ZL1 is just shockingly better. Well guys, there you have it. Those are the key differences and some similarities between my newly purchased 2013 ZL1 and of course my old and lovely 2010 Camaro 2SS. As you guys could see, these cars are very similar, yet very, very different. Now, of course, my SS is not supercharged and it doesn't have all the fancy gadgets in the interior, exterior, and it doesn't have the performance enhancements that the ZL1 has, but it's definitely given me so much fun and fulfillment, and it definitely checked off a lot of boxes over the last few years of ownership. Now, is the ZL1 really worth the extra $20,000 on the used marketplace? I don't know, maybe you can't arrive to that conclusion in this video. Stay tuned for the informative and entertaining videos that I have planned for this ZL1, and hopefully I can convince you to join the ZL1 army. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.